Well,
Everything we get.
our sheriff
Yeah.
is not our chief of police. Our sheriff runs our jails.
And then during
Yeah,
the
so-
next item,
I was. Exactly.
Mhm.
I was secretary treasurer.
Council of Governments meeting. So delighted to have everyone here and appreciate that we have National Association of Counties hosting us here today. This is a very nice space and recognizing we can't be in one offices while they're currently being renovated. So we're excited about seeing the changes once they're done. As a reminder, this meeting is also being live streamed and is open to the public. Might not know that. And then also for our meeting today, we have a unique opportunity to pass the torch to our new COG Board Chair. Really excited about this opportunity here today, and I want to acknowledge it's been an absolute honor and a privilege to serve over this past year and years before. I think we've made a number of significant goals and progress against our goals over the year, and I'm excited to continue to work on this team, on this group into 2026. I know that regionalism isn't something that's easy, and we have had a lot of collaboration, and we've had a productive year. Specifically, if you watch our year in review video that was emailed last week, you'll see some of the accomplishments, and just really proud to endorse the work that we did with both COG and WMATA for the DMV moves. I think that initiative is one that we all should be very, very proud of. Specifically, want to give some kudos to our Vice Chair, Alan, for his work on that specifically, and acknowledging that we've got to have a sustainable model to ensure the future viability of Metro, and looking at both capital as well as operations. Really, the operations component of it was focused for DMV moves. Second, we were very involved with talent capital, and I'll say the talent capital AI initiative was really significant as we think about what was happening at the federal government level, particularly around the job losses at the agency level, but then also at the contractor level. So being able to provide an opportunity for those who were looking for opportunities to be able to find those through our AI initiative. We had over 100,000 jobs that were available through that effort, and we're excited to see that that continues, that people are using it, they can get additional training if necessary, but I'm excited that that opportunity exists for those residents who are looking for change. And then I'll say at the beginning of the year, we had a pretty significant mid-air collision, which took us all by surprise. And I'll say the work that was done specifically to address the helicopter and airplane collision, making sure that we as a region came together to address that unfortunate circumstance, and then be able to have our mutual aid agreements provide the structure, and then to help us successfully navigate that mid-air collision. Certainly something I am appreciative of, and recognize the importance of the role that COG has here in this room. So just wanted to, again, thank you all for that. And then if I could, why don't we take a moment and I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. So for those who can, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I also need to express to everyone that we have a microphone system in here, so it pretty much captures your voice. So anyone that's kind of on the sidelines talking or in the back, I want you to know that you might be captured. So you might want to kind of keep it lower when you're discussing kind of in the back and along the wall. And then for everyone else, you don't have to worry about projecting too much. It's going to get captured in a minute. So just for everyone's awareness. So our next item of business is to do our election of our 2026 COG Board of Directors officers. And at this point, I'd like to present the report of the COG nominating committee of individuals nominated to serve as the 2026 COG Board officers. The nominating committee met in November and discussed and voted on the nominations that are in front of us here today. The proposed nominations included in Resolution R1-2026 are as follows. Chair, Ruben Collins from Charles County. Vice Chair, Charles Allen from the District of Columbia. And Vice Chair, Leah Gaskins from the City of Alexandria. So with that, I move to adopt resolution R1 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
Wow, multiple seconds. I will accept the second, so thank you very much. Are there any discussions? Is there any discussions on this motion? Yes, sir. Backus.
First of all, I want to take the opportunity to thank you, Supervisor Lask, for hard work in absolutely unprecedented times. And nobody would expect these times to be so unprecedented still today as it was when you took office here. I think that the incoming leadership fully realizes where we are today. We went, a lot of things have happened last year.
Yes.
I think the most traumatic, besides the accident, the most traumatic one was that we have seen troops in our in the middle of our city. And we continue to see troops in the middle of our cities, and this is not anymore, you know, the federalized National Guard of average morale. This is a different type of force. But on top of being hired and armed for a very specific purpose, it's also deployed in a way that vastly outnumbers local law enforcement and everything local government is asked to do to preserve the safety of our residents. So thank you for having worked this region in a way, and also COG staff for being absolutely critical to this effort to weave the region closer together. So onward on this for our new leadership here, because it's really badly needed, and I very much hope it's not going to be more needed as we go, but I'm not so optimistic anymore. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Any other comments? Any other discussion? Okay.
I just want to say something, I'm sorry.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
It's been a new board. My gosh, I mean, you have your work cut out for you. There's a Chinese proverb, may you live in interesting times. That may actually be a curse because we do live in interesting times. But I'm looking forward to working with everybody as we move forward, as we continue the move to Region forward. Thank you.
No, thank you. With that, I will now call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes, so thank you so very much. And I want to say congratulations to the 2026 officers. Some of them are new, for a while, so we are excited about that. And again, I will turn the program and the agenda over now to our COG chair. Thank you.
Sorry, people in the room are having a hard time hearing, so if you can use.
All right. Hopefully it'll stay balanced. So I'd like to say greetings to everyone. I want to start by thanking you, Rodney, for your leadership, not only during the past year as chair of COG, but over the many years of service you provided to this organization. We appreciate your service and we look forward to your continued leadership as we continue to address these very important issues that we face as a region. On behalf of the COG board, which is the tradition, I would like to present with you this plaque commemorating your year of service as chair.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you. Say anything? Okay. I'll just take a couple more minutes and say I appreciate all of my colleagues here on COG. It's been an honor to serve on this body. I have immensely learned from each of you. I look to Kate Stewart there from Montgomery County, Mr. Allen here from Washington, D.C. Having the opportunity to serve on a regional body certainly has its privileges, but it also has this opportunity to see how other jurisdictions and other leaders work on issues and to bring us together to resolve some of the most complex and difficult issues that we see in our respective communities. And I'll just conclude by saying, I appreciate so very much Clark Mercer too. I want to acknowledge his leadership style and just his knowledge and awareness of so many things. And you can see how we have pivoted here at COG because of his leadership. And it's made a difference in terms of the issues that we've been engaged in, and it's made a difference in how we are perceived in this community. So I just want to give a nod to him for his service and the work that he's done while I've been serving on this board. And so with that, I'll say I'm not leaving. I look forward to continuing to serve here on the COG board and see so many opportunities to continue the relationships that I've built with many of you around this table. So thank you.
And thank you again, sir. Leadership is clearly a reflection of the time in which we live. And so I am grateful to be a part of this moment. The analogy for me is being like the second string quarterback watching the starter leave the game with a knee injury. And the coach is telling you, come in right now and move the team forward. I say I'm excited about this opportunity to continue working with all of you, serving as your chair this year. I look forward to collaborating with Vice Chairs Allen and Gaskins to help advance the priorities of the COG board and our region. We have a big year ahead of us, and it's important to acknowledge the moment that we're living in. Our region continues to grow and thrive, while also navigating real uncertainty, particularly with changes happening at the federal level and beyond. What's happening nationally and globally is not theoretical for us. It lands here in this region. Our region feels it first and often the strongest. Because of that, COG has an important role to play, not just as a coordinating body, but as a place where we can talk openly and honestly about what we're seeing and how it's impacting our region. We will continue to prioritize transit funding and advancing the recommendations of the DM Moves initiative. At the same time, this is not a year of rigidity. We must remain flexible, nimble, and ready to pivot as issues arise. I also want to put focus on diversifying our regional economy beyond the federal government and supporting residents navigating career transition. COG took meaningful steps in this direction in 2025, and this year is an opportunity to build on that work in a practical, results-oriented way. As chair, and this is for everyone, my door is open. I want to hear from you. If there are issues you believe deserve regional discussion or ideas for future topics, I encourage you to reach out to me. Our success depends on ensuring the voices of the entire COG family are heard and reflected in our overall work. Now, as my first act as chair, I'd like to move to nominate the 2026 leadership of COG's policy and administrative committees, all of which are listed on page 7 of your board packet. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. You have a motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will have the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. So congratulations to our 2026 committee leadership. Thank you for your willingness Thank you for your willingness to serve our region. At this time, we'll have the chair's report. For today's chair's report, please note the 2026 COG Board meeting dates and save them on your calendar along with the full schedule of the 2026 COG Board and Policy Committee meeting. You can find this information on pages 10 and 11 of your board packet. Ms. Mercer. Oh, sorry.
All right, now for my executive director's report, and congratulations on the first couple motions passing unanimously as chair. I would also want to take the occasion to thank Supervisor Lusk, and it's one common trait that both you and Chair Collins have, besides being very good elected officials and responsive to your constituents. You both are just very kind people. And I was asked, I was in Charles County with Chair Collins for a podcast, and they asked about his leadership, and I and Chair Lusk, you're in the same boat. You're just very, very kind people, and I think in today's day and age, particularly in elected office, that's not something you see all of the time. So, thank you, Chair Lusk and Chair Collins. Looking forward to working with you. All right, 2026. I've got a little bit of an extended report that I'm going to run through pretty quickly, but 2026 will be a big year for the Council of Governments. Our offices will be completely renovated, 50,000 square feet, being broken down to the studs right now and built back up. We will reopen in the summer. Then we will have a space similar to this where we can have discussions and little mini town halls and that sort of thing. We will obviously have a great ribbon cutting. Hope the mayor will be there, Tomas, when that happens. But that has been 14 years in discussion at COG, renovating the building. And that included, a lot of you around the table should get a double applause for that. That included a refinancing of the building and some movement with ownership to figure out prior to being able to commit to moving forward with the renovation. In 2026, we'll have a brand new website. Steve Kanya's leading the effort on that. That has also been several years in the making. That includes both our internal intranet and our external facing work. And we will have our mission statement, core values, and strategic objectives as well. We will roll all of these out close to the same time, early summer of 26. Looking back a bit, we had our annual awards meeting. Thank you all for attending. Council member Kate Stewart won the Skull Award for her leadership on equity and her role in laying the groundwork for DMV movement. Juan Thompson with the Freuberg Award for his work on clean transportation, and former NVRC Director Bob Lazaro with the Kirby Award. We are working on selecting a venue for this year's annual meeting. Well, HQO has been terrific for the past 2 years. A little tricky sometimes getting there. We've heard that. So we have 3 site visits lined up over the next couple of weeks for pretty exciting venues. So stay posted on that. And we will also be, I think, a little bit more time and attention in terms of publicizing these awards, the application windows, encouraging nominations, and then really building up, because it is a big deal to receive these awards, and we want to make sure that we highlight that as such. On DMV Moves, we've discussed that a bit. We wrapped up the last joint board meeting between the COG board and the Metro board. Resolution was passed, which is fantastic. I have been working along with Conti and Tom Harrington and staff on kind of a roadshow to all of our, starting with our compact members to endorse that resolution. The resolution for DMV Moves has been unanimously endorsed. Loudoun was very quick to point. They were the first jurisdiction to unanimously approve it. Fairfax County, Arlington County was with Councilwoman Stewart, Montgomery County yesterday. They will be approving the resolution. College Park was last night. We have Prince George's coming up. We have City of Falls Church coming up, and the City of Alexandria. The goal is for all of the Metro Compact members to approve that resolution. The work goes to the capitals in the district, Annapolis and Richmond now. In Maryland, Delegate Mark Corman and Senator Malcolm Augustine are carrying the legislation to fully fund Maryland's share of the DMV Moves commitment. Took a look at what is pre-filed that will be public soon. We'll share it with everybody, but obviously we are trying to give Delegate Corman, Senator Augustine all of the backing that they need, showing that their localities are fully behind this initiative. In Virginia, new administration coming in, and there's been a lot of movement of elected officials. So Senator Eben did a lot of the heavy lifting on SJ 28. He is moving into the administration, so his bill he will be working on with the Senate Majority Leader Scott Serval in the Senate. In the House, our COG board member, Delegate Mark Sickles, is now Secretary Designee of Finance for the state. And his bill has been handed off to Delegate Rip Sullivan and Kathy Tran to work in the House. It's good to have friends as Secretary of Finance. Our facilitator for DMV moves, Nick Donahue, is the Secretary of Transportation designee for the Commonwealth. So we hope we have good, strong support from both the Finance and Transportation secretaries. While I'm on the topics of people leaving COG and working in administrations, Matt Weinstein. Matt, raise your hand. Matt is our general counsel. Or was our general counsel. He's the deputy secretary now, designee for the Secretary of Administration, which handles general service elections for the state. And there are 4 constitutional amendments that will the General Assembly today. So Matt, if those pass, you're going to have your hands full figuring that out. Good luck. You want to introduce your partner in crime there?
Sure, I really appreciated my time here at COG. It hasn't been that long. It's been about 8 months. I've enjoyed working with you. Fortunately, we were able to transition my work over to Scott Adams, who is my colleague and boss actually at McGuire Woods. I think many of you may know Scott through his land use work, particularly in Fairfax, and it will be a seamless transition moving things over to COG or to Scott. So I'm looking forward to going to Richmond on Monday and embracing the whirlwind.
Well, congratulations, and congratulations to all of our COG members and affiliates who are going on to greener pastures. Be careful what you wish for. That's enough. No, it's all good. You'll have fun. All good. Transportation Planning Board, a big shout out to Conti and his team. Last month, they passed Visualize 2050. And Visualize 2050 includes $297 billion worth of investments. Includes projects like Long Bridge and the Purple Line, and that will support our growing region, anticipated to grow by 1 million residents by 2050. Any of those projects to get funding have to sit in TPB's long-term plan, which is Visualize 2050. Also, within the last couple of weeks, TPB approved almost 11 million for 25 enhanced mobility projects. So it was a busy month last month for TPB, and Conti runs that process, which is complicated and difficult, just with tremendous grace. And so congratulations, Conti, and to your team. Collaboration in Action, that's our video series. We have a new video posted, spent a good amount of time in Prince George's County with their general services and environmental team, looking at their solar power and EV infrastructure, and was also with the DC Department of Public Works, checking out their clean energy work vehicles. And so if you haven't checked it out, it's got like 20 views maybe, Andrea. My mother's like 10 of those. So if you all want to look, that would be great. Talent Capital was mentioned. A couple 2025 stats for Talent Capital. And Talent Capital is a joint initiative, was spearheaded out of the mayor's administration and Deputy Mayor Kine, who has education and workforce, working with his counterparts in Virginia and Maryland. And this is a one-stop job resource for workers, special eye towards federal and contracted workers, but really anyone looking for work in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Prior to Talent Capital, there was not one good, accurate site you could go to take a look at all of the jobs available in the region. And this uses a kind of advanced type of AI where it matches someone's skills, pulling in their resume and matches them with a job. And then we work on getting commitments from the employers to give a strong look to folks who are matched. It also pulls together all of the job training pathways, which we do a good job in a stovepipe with Virginia, Maryland, or DC, but we don't do a good job with those pathways across jurisdictional boundaries. So 85,000 visitors to the site over the past couple months, 62,000 unique visitors. That means they register and they're talking to Celeste, our AI agent. And right now there's 200 folks going through free job aligned training programs. George Washington just started their most recent cohort of project management professional folks this week. And those are all folks that came through Talent Capital. We will talk about this a bit during the legislative priority session, but DC has committed to at least 200,000 for this regional pot of money, with the expectation and hope that Maryland and Virginia will match that amount in this upcoming sessions. And that money will go to build this infrastructure behind Talent Capital and maintain it so we know it's there going into the future. So Tomas and the district, thank you for being the folks to commit that early out of the gates, and I think it will be working with our delegations, hopefully in Easy Sell in Annapolis and Richmond. I want to congratulate our environmental team on the Regional Blue-Green Initiative BGI project. This was a collaboration with the District of Columbia and Prince George's County, and it received the prestigious Grand Award from the American Council of Engineering Companies of Metropolitan, Washington. I will be in touch with your CAOs on this. We have a regional roundup. Show of hands if folks get it every morning and read it. So I'm a huge nerd for reading daily morning news clips. Like I ask all my staff to read them before they get to the office. We're going to have a push to get more of your employees to sign up for the daily roundup. And the help there, and Rich, maybe talking with you, the CAO group, maybe an email to county and city employees, just encouraging them to do it. Obviously, it's got to be up to them to sign up, but we want to really grow kind of the specter of who we're talking to throughout the year, and the daily roundup is a good place to start. You have on your desks a flyer for a series on data centers. So this is a great example of a place where COG needs to play a leadership role. And this agenda, I've already been asked by a couple members, could there be some edits? Could we talk about who's participating on the panels? And the answer is yes, of course. Jeff King, who runs our environmental department, and Steve Bieber, our water department. And this series, you can't really do this topic justice in one meeting, but this is the goal of this is to talk about all aspects of the data center industry. So energy usage, water consumption, planning and zoning. And I think we will need to talk a little bit about, perhaps in a standalone session, the finances, both in terms of ratepayers and effects of cost to individuals' monthly bills, but also the tax schemes that all the states have and revenues generated. And more than willing and want to work, and Jeff should be in touch with all of your staffs, but if we haven't been, let's plug in and we will publicize this and work with all of you on that. Deloitte has, as a pro bono project, been working with the Council of Governments, the Board of Trade, the Greater Washington Partnership, and the Consortium of Universities. We have worked together traditionally in what's called the Potomac Conference, where we take on a topic or series of topics together. And Deloitte has been sitting us down to really think through how we work well together and what we can do moving forward. A couple of the ideas that have come out of that is to stand up a State of the Region event. Many of our counterparts have a State of the Region event, whether it's a 1 or 2 day event to kind of go over a lot of topics that we're talking about today in an in-depth way. This past summer, a couple of our members suggested we stand up a Metro Exchange program where we visit other metro areas in the country or internationally to learn and adopt best practices. We had the mayor of Atlanta come with 140 folks this summer, mayor of Indianapolis come. It's a pretty normal thing for big metro areas to do. That is in the beginnings of a planning phase. It's a big cost to that, but we have started looking at what that might look like. And then we were briefed, at a previous retreat by the Department of Commerce on the creation of these economic development districts. And we have interviews over the next several days for our Director of Community and Economic Planning Services. That was Paul Desjardins' position, hoping to move forward with a candidate. And the first item up for that individual will be working on a comprehensive economic development strategy for the region, which can ultimately lead to that designation. So stay posted on that. Like I said, I had a bunch. I think I'm done. I know I talked a whole lot. Oh, 2 more things, and then I'll zip it up. It's really helpful, and I mention this a lot, when our principals sit down and set a tone for the region to work together. I know that Governor-elect Spanberger, Governor Moore, and Mayor Bowser have a date on the books already to meet, which is fantastic. Working on a second date on the books to meet. A lot of things that we have talked about today, like talent capital, is something that's really helpful if it's led by the 3 governors. Our new Secretary of Transportation in Maryland, Katie Thompson, has been in touch with our Secretary Designee, Mr. Donahue. That is another area where I think COG behind the scenes can really help facilitate some conversations, and we need to coordinate between the 3 states there. And then lastly, this building not only houses the National Association of Counties, it houses our trade associations, the National Association of Regional Councils, which is like the worst acronym, indeed, it's NARC. So like, need to work on that. But February 1st is our my counterparts coming in, and we are hosting on Sunday, February 1st, a tour of our metro system. So we're doing a Union Station tour, and then we're going to do a similar tour like we did for DMV Moves, where we go to Farragut North and check out their signaling room. I will say that Philadelphia is beginning a very similar process to what we have had. I was last told they're going to call it Philadelphia Move, so pretty creative there. Chicago has completed their work, which resulted in over $1 billion more going to the Chicago area transit agencies a year. And so there's a few other New York has been going through a similar process. So we have some counterparts that want to hear what we've been doing with DMV Moves, check out the system, and perhaps move forward with similar efforts. So doing that on February 1st. The last thing, and then I'm like, I've done like 4 months worth of reports. You all have in your inboxes my annual evaluation. Please, good, bad, and the ugly, respond to it. Please get it in to Chair Lusk. And
Thank you.
I have mentioned to Susan Ways, our HR director, the process for my evaluation is kind of what I inherited. So I'm doing what we've always done. But I have asked Susan this year to take a look at how these evaluations are done for my counterparts at other COGs. And if we need to improve that process in any way, I've asked her to make those recommendations. So thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is approval of the amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda at this time? Appearing that there are none, we'll move on to the next item, which is to move to approve the minutes from the October 8th and November 17th meetings. Moved and properly second. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. So we have in agenda item 8, we have 8 resolutions on the consent agenda. All of them can be found on page 25 of the board packet. So I move to adopt resolutions R30-2025 through R7-2026. Been moved and second. Are there any questions from board members? All in favor? Opposed? Or abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move to item number 9, where the board will be briefed on the FY 2025 audit report and be asked to adopt resolution R8-2026, accepting the FY 2025 audit and authorizing the extension of the independent audit firm's contract to perform the FY 2026 audit. Links to the summary of the audit and full audit report can be found on page 29 of the board packet. Now I'd like to invite COG Audit Committee Chair Emmett Jordan to brief us on the report. Mr. Jordan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to first bring you greetings on behalf of the Audit Committee. I want to acknowledge Vice Mayor Darrell Moore from the great city of Manassas and Maryland Senator from District 15, Brian Feldman, and working with Julie Song and our audit firm, CLA, Sean Walker. We reviewed the financial information and the audited financial and compliance reports for COG for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025 were presented to the Audit Committee on December 19th. And Sean Walker of CLA was there to share information, to answer questions. So the auditors have issued an unqualified clean opinion on the basic financial statements, confirming that COG's financial information fairly represents its financial position. The auditor's required communication to the board of directors has been provided as a separate document and can also be accessed on page 31, accessed. Note number 12 in the financial statements addresses the pending GASB statement changes in financial reporting, and this was also reviewed by the audit committee on December 19th. So in January of 2025, the COG board approved R5-2025, authorizing the solicitation of proposals for independent audit firms to perform the 2026 audit. The audit committee reviewed the top 2 highest rated proposals, and based on this review, the committee is recommending approval of R8 2026, accepting that the fiscal year 2025 audit report, and also once again selecting Clifton Larson Allen LLP to perform our 2026 audit. So that resolution is on page 30 of the board packet. Basically, we have a clear opinion as discussed in our committee meetings. However, we still don't have the final single audit, and here's why. Expecting to receive it in the next 2 weeks, but because of the government shutdown, instructions from the government on meeting were not available. So we're expecting to actually have that in the next 2 weeks. So if you're wondering what happened, you can blame it on the feds. I didn't say that. So once again, I want to thank my colleagues on the audit committee and appreciate Julie Sonk for all that she does, the Chief Administrative Officer and Chief Financial Officer, and Anna Douglas, the COG Controller, for their work on this project. Julie, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you guys. And I think it was said earlier, interesting times. I don't think I've ever seen this particular situation, but many of our partners in the region are also delayed in getting their single audits done. But we will get that out to the committee as soon as we have it and share it with the board next month.
And with that, our report is done. If anyone has any, if you have questions, or if anyone has any questions, we're glad to deal with them.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Are there any questions from the board? So I'd like to make a motion at this time to adopt Resolution R8 2026, accepting the FY 2025 audit and authorizing the extension of the independent audit firm's contract to perform the FY 2026 audit. It's been moved, it's been seconded. Is there any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The motion passes. The next item on the agenda, which is item 10, 2026, legislative priorities. Each year, COG develops and adopts a set of legislative priorities to guide our advocacy efforts at the state and federal level. The COG board, policy committees, and staff use these priorities throughout the year to share information and advocate on behalf of our region. I'd like to note this document is solely advocacy focused and is not meant to include every priority or focus area of COG. This year, I had the pleasure of chairing the 2026 Legislative Committee, who reviewed and edited the proposed set of priorities in front of you today. Starting on page 31 of the board packet, the priorities have also been reviewed by the leadership of each individual policy committee, so a lot of thought has gone into this document. Now I'd like to turn it over to Monica Nunez, COG's Government Relations Manager, to briefly review the proposed legislative priorities for 2026 and then discuss any feedback. The board will then consider Resolution R9 2026 to adopt the COG 2026 legislative priorities. Yes, I will.
Yes. Surprised.
Okay, thank you. So as I'm sure everyone knows, the legislative sessions in Maryland and Virginia kick off today. Virginia's going about 2 months and Maryland's about 3. Per the direction of the board at last year's retreat, we are working hard to have a stronger presence in Richmond and Annapolis to advocate on behalf of our regional priorities. So the legislative packet for approval today covers a wide range of topics that can be advocated both state and federally. I'm going to go through each of those quickly, and then we'll kind of circle back on what we view as our top 3 priorities this session. I encourage you to open it up in the board packet if you would like to follow along. The first section focuses on transportation funding, planning, and connectivity. Number 1 being what Clark touched on, support of the funding recommendations coming out of the DMV Moves initiative, strongly supporting an additional $460 million in capital funding for Metro that grows annually, needing that to start in FY29. The additional funding on the capital side is essential for needed upgrades and the continued success of Metro and our region. So as Clark noted, Delegate Corman and Senator Augustine are sponsoring legislation in Maryland. On the Virginia side, we have Senators Survell and Eben and Delegates Sullivan and Tran that will be leading this effort. So we're working closely with our partners in Annapolis and Richmond and Metro and all of our community partners, government partners to really, really push on this. So the next one is also related to Metro, and it's indexed federal funding, so increased operating and capital from the federal government. The next in the transportation section is fixing the deficit in the Federal Highway Trust Fund and support for roadway and pedestrian safety. A big focus out of this section is addressing ticket reciprocity between DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So this session, we're working to get legislation passed in Maryland and Virginia to allow states to enter into ticket reciprocity agreements with each other. So this not only would raise additional funds that could potentially be used for transit, but also would make a big impact in improving roadway and pedestrian safety. The next section addresses water quality protection. This includes support in investments in water infrastructure and water quality protection. This is wastewater, stormwater, water reuse programs, along with continued support for the Metropolitan Area Backup Water Supply Feasibility Study. We had some good funding results on this in the last couple of months, but continuing to study a secondary water source for our region continues to be a top priority. The third section is climate resiliency and air quality protection. This goal is to expand policies, programs, and funding at all levels to meet the region's climate goals. We'll also support accelerated multi-sector actions to reduce greenhouse gases. It looks at ensuring sustainable security energy access for all, solar deployment, aggressive energy efficiency goals, and supporting policies that preserves and protect regional air quality and public health. We also added a priority this year into the document that's addressing energy demand growth from high electricity use sectors such as data centers. We expect this to be a big topic in both legislative sessions, so looking at studying that. The next section covers legislative priorities related to housing and economic resources. This includes efforts to equitably increase the supply of housing and promote housing affordability, and supporting efforts to prevent and end the experience of homelessness and the alignment of workforce development and job creation, along with the support of local governments and activity centers. So along the lines of the homelessness item, we'll be covering that topic in our last agenda item today related to federal funding. And another focus under this is what Clark mentioned with the talent capital and seeking state support from Virginia and Maryland to match what DC has already committed. The next section is Homeland Security and Public Safety. This includes support for funding for public health to prevent, prepare for, and respond to public health emergencies and pandemics, in addition to cybersecurity and emergency preparedness, and continued support at the federal level for the Urban Area Security Initiative funding, also known as UASI. And lastly, resources for violent crime reduction. The next section is Health and Human Services. It includes efforts to combat substance use disorders and increased access to mental health services. We also have an item on health equity and health disparity reduction, promoting family preservation regardless of citizenship status, and increased support of foster children and resource parents. The last section is food security and healthy food access. And priorities under this section look towards initiatives to address food insecurity, including programs that support childhood nutrition, healthy food access, resilient food systems, and supporting farmers and local food entrepreneurs. So as you'll see, this document is pretty high level. It covers a lot of issue areas that enables COG to advocate on different specific legislation and bills throughout the sessions. And I just wanted to end on recapping kind of what we view as our top goals this legislative session, and that we would really seek your support when you are advocating with your delegates and senators in Richmond and Annapolis to support these regional goals. So happy to answer any questions or comments about the document. And we're seeking approval through the resolution today.
Number that state of Maryland was provided for Metro.
The bill number,
Yes.
it has,
Bill number, it says 460 total, but how much the state of Maryland?
the Maryland is 154. I believe. 152.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The legislation that Delegate Corman is sponsoring has 150 included.
And following along those same lines, the talent capital guys issue, how much funding do you think?
We're seeking 200,000 each.
So,
One of the thoughts on the talent cap, and this would be a discussion, some of us with you and Mayor Bowser
And Governor Moore and Governor Spanberger would be consideration of a task force to look at the state's response to the federal workforce and contractors, and are we doing everything we can to coordinate? And I would hope if they agree to do something like that, the talent capital would be part of that discussion. We've had head nods and good agreement that that's something that we should do. We just need to kind of put pen to paper. That might be captured in something of an EO. I'll note in the consent agenda, one of the items that we've discussed previously, that's why it was in consent agenda and you've approved, is we will be expanding the COG board to have both a delegate and a senator from both Maryland and Virginia. So you will see an email from me encouraging the respective caucuses in Maryland and Virginia to give some real thought to that. In Virginia, we will have a delegate opening and a senator opening, with Delegate Sickles moving off the board. With Senator Feldman, we have no delegate in Maryland. So give some real deep thought to kind of who that could be. That would be an active member that would attend our meetings, obviously outside of session, and really serve as a conduit. So if we have an idea or a priority, how do we take that from COG and translate that into legislation in Richmond and Annapolis that we can hope whether our member carries it or whether that member finds someone to carry it. I think that's a little bit of a missing ingredient that we need to think about. On the ticket reciprocity, MDOT does have their own legislation, which we're supporting, which would allow Maryland localities to enter into reciprocity agreements. And in Virginia, we would be looking at budget language to instruct the DMV and Secretary of Finance to share information and work with DC and Maryland on the universe of this issue and options for it moving forward. Really the key to understanding this, and it's been a struggle in the district, getting particularly Virginia to share this information so that we know that the universe of this problem included in that, and this is notable for both district and Maryland residents, issuing license plates to individuals within your state that reside in another state. Virginia is the only state that allows that in the country. So there's 100,000 Marylanders that are driving around today with Virginia license plates. And that leads to some real public safety issues. And it's a big revenue issue when you think about what it costs to title your vehicle. So that would be something we hope could be part of this. It'd be a study bill at first. We can get our arms around the scope of the issue and options to address it moving forward. Yeah.
And thank you for acknowledging under the Housing Economic Resources to support local governments and activity centers. For us in Prince George's County, we don't have land use, so looking to find ways of getting resources to help us to enhance the capacity for regional activity centers. I thought I had a long value of my voice carried enough. Thank you. Again, under the housing and economic resources, I do appreciate the fact that you have support local government activity centers. For us in Prince George's County, only one municipality has land use authority, which is sitting next to me. And for but no, for many of us that are smaller municipalities, have an opportunity to get resources to help us to increase the capacity of mixed use activity. As far as the footprint of affordable housing, workforce development, we're really trying to enhance that, but we need tools in our toolbox to do that. So this will be a great achievement for us personally.
I would just say too, on the federal funding, MATA, no opportunity of governors ever coming in to make sure that there's a very much coordinated advocacy effort on the Hill related to that. Not sure when the president's budget's gonna come out yet. We haven't been signaled yet as we're part of that budget proposal when he sends it down, but I think getting out ahead and making sure that we have alignment on what the ask is on PREA funding and the federal funding and registering that sooner rather than later, and definitely before the president's release. And then once the president's budget out, if it's not where we need it to be, that coordinated advocacy on the Hill will be critical. And we have a unique opportunity now to be able to do that all together. So I just put that on the radar.
Coming around.
Can I say something? As we move it around on the ticket reciprocity, does it provide a forgiveness, like you're starting fresh? Because I think you mentioned, Clark, that there are some people driving around with enormous balances.
So on the issue of ticket reciprocity, we are many steps removed from what it would look like. We really need to get our arms around the scope of the problem and the data and options moving forward. And I think your point of some type of forgiveness to clearly is going to be something that would be discussed, because there's folks at $30,000-$40,000 worth of fines and fees. How do you handle that? Do you go back to the original fine? Is it just like a library book, day where you just wipe it clean and something moving forward? I think the states are all going to have, but before we can really get to what the policy solution is, we need to really define what the scope of the problem is. And we need the DMVs to cooperate with one another and share this data. That's kind of the first step. And there's also not full reciprocity. There's another, Maryland will mention this in Virginia, which is also, so there's a whole lot of reciprocity issues I think would be put in the mix to be discussed.
So I believe you have Supervisor Bailey, you have a microphone, right?
Oh, yes, I do, but you want to talk first?
No.
Okay, well, I'll talk. Never
Never
disliked a mic that I didn't like. Anyway, so there's three things that I wanted to say. Well, actually four. One is to what my friend Denise just said about the localities piece. That's critical. Something where we've been talking about for quite some time. Now it's coming to fruition. I think that's game changing. The other thing is on the health and human services piece. I was saying to Brianne that we've come back to some of the things that we were talking about before when I first got on COG, one being mental health, which is critical nationally. And so I do appreciate our committee for raising the consciousness of that. Thirdly, when we talked about the housing piece, but all encompassing, relationships matter. And the relationships that we now have between Maryland, DC, and Virginia is going to pay big for us. And so I applaud all of the committees and to our board for really embracing the strategy of that. We didn't have an opportunity to embrace the strategy of that before, and I think it will be very impactful. And then lastly, I just wanted to say that when, COG is so very good at identifying regional opportunities. And Clark, you've made a difference in that. with your skill set and your leadership. And I'm not trying to pump your head up, but I like your head. I like your head, but I think that goes back to relationships matter and leadership matters. And so we have to be very aggressive and what we're doing with COG. And Ruben, I think you'll take us to where we need to be with that. But just being in concert with all of that, the funding is going to be key and how we embrace that. So I just wanted to say that we're at a pinnacle moment right now, and we've got to be really aggressive. The priorities are wonderful. Thank you. Takis, take it away.
Since there's a microphone. So a couple of things. First of all, to Supervisor Bailey's point of making COG more visible, it helped us a lot with transportation. I think that there is a dividend from this work that now both Annapolis and Richmond, and of course the city, fully understand that they have to work with a major metropolitan region that goes beyond, the boundary, the policy boundaries that were common to them until now. I think we have a very good place to start there. I don't remember when our lobby days are, but we need to make the maximum out of them. In addition, I think last year, one of the newer activities that we had was a meeting with legislators down in National Harbor, I think. I think this was well placed and well strategized, and we can build up on that further. I also think it's also extremely important for our legislators, both in Richmond and Annapolis, talking as a Virginian, to see DC. Because this was the year that they had to learn to CDC, and now it is the time to implement the lessons from that. Finally, one additional two additional remarks. One is affordability agenda is a real thing. I do believe that COG needs to tweak the message to translate in something that both legislators and the district actually feel that is a emerging and strong priority of their residents. And not unrelated to that is the current situation with healthcare and the mess that is health insurance for hundreds of thousands of Marylanders and hundreds of thousands of Virginians and DC residents. We will see. We can make COG a lot more relevant also to our residents directly for focusing on these challenges. So thank you. Now giving the microphone.
I have one quick thing to say. Prince William County, we are the most diverse county in the Commonwealth. And when I was reading about family separation, that is something that's really personal. Actually, this morning, I just received a text from one of our local activists about someone who was picked up, a family man who was picked up outside of a CVS. I think that that is something we're really going to have to talk more about. It's not popular right now with the administration in Washington, D.C., but we are a very diverse region. And we have make sure we have to send not just a legislative, but it's a moral stance about keeping families together, because that has such an impact on our communities. Again, I see it very much in my community. It is something, if anyone has ever witnessed a family separation, it is heartbreaking. It is absolutely heartbreaking. So I appreciate that being mentioned within our legislative packet. Again, I know it's a tense topic, but leadership requires tough choices. And that's one I think we have to really push hard on. Thank you.
So I'm just going to talk about quickly affordability, housing affordability. So I know Chair Randall and the Loudoun Board of Supervisors are very concerned about Richmond taking away our local authority on land use regarding housing. So I would encourage COG to take a strong position because they are looking at that. They don't think we're doing enough housing affordability, and that isn't true. You know, we have a story to share, and I'm sure other jurisdictions have a strong story to share. And I also, you know, I've been looking outside the box for housing affordability, looking at naturally attainable housing. How do we get smaller square footage sizes? You know, we don't need the big bougie townhomes and large McMansions. How do we get developers to do the smaller square footage? And so that's been a challenge that I've been looking at land use wise, is not just the AMI, you know, looking at LIHTC funding in our housing trust fund, but how do we get them to do it naturally occurring? So something to think about, but I know the Loudon Board is very concerned about our authority being taken regarding attainable housing. So just an FYI. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to quickly follow up. I would say we too share the concerns about any loss of local authority. At the same time, I think there are a number of bills that Alexandria is going to support that maybe we wouldn't have in the past, because we feel like in order to accelerate some of the things that we want to do in the space of housing, we need the state to take on more of that role and to help us a little bit. So I would just, I mean, I think it's an important conversation to have. I do know we've tried to reach out to some of the other jurisdictions, and I think we've reached out to VML as well. I definitely think this is a regional conversation in terms of thinking about what are the things localities can do, but also what is the appropriate role maybe for our state governments, and what are the things they can do that help us do the work we want to do faster. So I guess I just lift that up to say that there are some things we wouldn't be an absolute no on, but are actually really looking at how we can be a champion behind them.
Any further? Can you hear me? Yes. Any further comments? And I just wanted to follow up, and I think this discussion is really emphasizing why the very nature of establishing this type of legislative priority for COG is important. This time last year, the governor of the state of Maryland was pushing a very comprehensive housing bill. And a lot of the concerns that I'm listening to Virginia in this conversation, those are a lot of the concerns that were raised by local jurisdictions in the state of Maryland. And so having, again, this discussion and making it regional in scope is extremely important. And so I did have a question for staff, because at our summer retreat, one of the ideas that came out of that discussion was the idea of possibly having an actual lobbyist acting on behalf of COG. And I was wondering if we're still exploring that as a possibility.
Yes, we're still exploring it. We're working with a couple of partners, particularly on the metro, that have lobbyists retained. We're having a weekly call with them and with the different stakeholders on the transit. We don't have anyone retained per se for the sessions coming up, but it's still very much on the radar screen. We want to make sure that when we take that step and make that financial commitment, that we have all our ducks in a row, because you can burn through some money pretty quickly with retained folks. So we feel good on the metro funding. There's 3 or 4 firms retained that are working on that. On the talent capital, we have the secretaries of labor and now a secretary of finance who's supportive. Feel pretty good on that. But I think, and Monica and I talk about that, it's something, Chair, that we should talk about. And if we want to retain them well in advance of session, so we're prepared. It's a good flag, though.
Any further questions or comments? If not, we need a motion to adopt Resolution R9 2026.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Agenda item 11 is Housing Affordability Planning Program Grants. The next item will be hearing from COG's Housing Affordability Planning Program Grants. We will be briefed on and will vote on the recommended 2026 recipients. This program, which is funded by a grant from Amazon Housing's Fund, awards small, flexible grants to area local governments and nonprofit developers engaged in the planning, approval, or development of housing near transit stations. At this time, we will hear from Hillary Chapman, COG's Housing Program Manager, to tell us more about the program and this year's proposed recipients.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Collins, Vice Chairs Allen and Gaskins. I am so pleased to be here with you today for the opportunity to present the funding recommendations for the fourth round of the Housing Affordability Planning Program, or HAP, as it is known. The HAP grant program is designed to catalyze developments and planning efforts to further the board's 2030 housing targets. And grantees can be either local governments or nonprofit housing development partners with the support of a COG member. So a panel of housing experts across the region with diverse expertise in housing finance, housing grant administration, and policy reviewed and scored 24 applications for funding. The recommendations include 3 applicants from Maryland, 2 from Virginia, and 3 from the District of Columbia. The program was highly oversubscribed this year by 4-to-1 and received the most applications in the program's history to date. It was a challenging decision to select the awardees, given that we had a fixed amount of $500,000. All of the recommended nonprofit grantees are new and have not received HAP grant funding in the past. The opportunity to support local governments doing work that is likely to have a lasting long-term impact on the ability to increase the affordable housing supply was equally important as providing critical funding to development partners creating significant new affordable communities. So now I'm going to be happy to introduce our recommendations for funding. And these are the 8 grantees. 4 are planning related and 4 are nonprofit affordable developments. I'm going to give you just a quick overview of each one. So this slide represents a proposal from the University of Maryland's National Center for Smart Growth to conduct a bi-county approach to understand opportunities for increased density of existing residential sites with a meaningful right of return for low and moderate income households and communities near the Purple Line. HAP funding will directly result in an updated database of multifamily properties and developing context-specific models for equitable redevelopment on TOD sites. Funding of $70,000 is recommended for this truly collaborative regional effort. Next, the District of Columbia's Office of Planning is recommended to receive the maximum award of $75,000 in HAP grant funds to support an update to the Inclusionary Zoning Plus program. The grant will support analysis of the program's outcomes to date, develop a feasibility study to determine how the program could produce more housing and distribute them more equitably across the city. Recommendations for program improvements to ensure responsiveness to market conditions will not only better inform the district's IZ Plus program, but as the selection committee noted, could provide guidance for inclusionary housing policies across the region. There we go. Prince William County and the City of Manassas Park are recommended to receive, again, a maximum award of $75,000 in HAP grant funds to develop an affordable housing implementation plan. The plan will include a robust community engagement effort and advance initiatives in the county and the city to identify places that accommodate affordable housing. Complementing the implementation plan will be a new affordable housing tracker for both rental and homeownership units. The fourth HAP planning grant recommendation is $45,000, which was the amount fully requested, to the City of Alexandria's Office of Housing to develop a pattern book for different housing types in former single-family only residential zones. This pattern book is designed to provide a visual aid for community members and developers to support exploration of new housing typologies across the city to achieve greater housing affordability and accessibility. Now I will introduce our 4 affordable development grantees. The first one is the Wilhelmina Roll-Arc at Congress Heights. This is recommended for a funding amount of $65,000. And as I shared previously, the selection committee felt it was important to support nonprofit developers which had not received HAP grants in the past. The Congress Heights Community Training and Development Corporation proposes to create a mixed-use development of 150 affordable residential units, including retail space, community area, daycare, and robust job creation initiatives. The development will feature modern architecture, a green roof, and a variety of family-sized units of particular need across the city. HAP grant funds will be used for pre-development expenses to ensure the project is able to advance to a groundbreaking in late 2026. Next, we have Sunhaven Apartments in Prince George's County. Dowood Ventures, which is a partnership between the NHP Foundation and Helios Development, is recommended to receive $60,000 in HAP grant funds to redevelop an existing community that was acquired through the county's right of first refusal program into 36 near net zero units for households earning between 30 and 60% of AMI. HAP funds will be used for pre-development expenses to advance planning, entitlement, and design work. Mission First Housing Development Corporation is recommended to receive $60,000 in HAP grant funds to convert a one-story office building in downtown Silver Spring, Maryland into a 104-unit affordable high-rise development with close proximity to transit, amenities, employment, and high-performing schools. As an office to residential project, conversion project, it is eligible for an expedited approval application. And HAP grant funds will be used for pre-development work, engineering, environmental, and market studies to submit an application to Maryland DHCD for low-income housing tax credits. The final recommendation for HAP grant is $50,000 to the Dance Loft on 14th and District of Columbia. A current historic warehouse will be converted into a mixed-use affordable housing and arts complex with 101 new affordable apartments for families between 30 and 80% of AMI, equally spread, and will include 1, 2, and 3 bedroom-sized units created with near net zero green building practices. The complex will include green spaces, public murals, and expanded arts programming and access for neighborhood residents. HAP grant funds will be used again for pre-development work to submit an application for low-income housing tax credits. The next steps for this will be following the board's action, we'll be entering into grant agreements with the goal of dispersing funds by the end of the first quarter of 2026. Thank you again for the opportunity to present these recommendations. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Bailey.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Prince William County honorably accepts this award. When you say, but I wanted to say that I love it when a plan comes together. Again, it's just an example of how COG is moving forward. This is the first HAP grant that we've gotten. We talked about it last year, and this is the first grant we've gotten. But the best thing about it, it's a combined effort with Manassas City and Prince William County, which is Manassas is really in Prince William County, but we don't tell them that. But but it's going to be so unique because of that, you know, and it really secures and takes care of an affordable housing opportunity that's been needed for years. And so this is very exciting that we're beginning a trend to move in that direction. So thank you for presenting that.
Yeah, thank you for those kind words. The selection committee was impressed by the thought that the planning team in Prince William and Manassas put into that plan and that application, and they had clear timelines, tasks, and deliverables. So we're very pleased to be able to support it.
Mayor Jordan.
Thank you very much. Just turn this off. So, you know, these projects are exciting, innovative, and just to see the different approaches to housing affordability and attainability, it's fascinating to see. But I'm wondering if at some point over the course of the next year, some sort of a tour might be arranged for board members or for others to actually see some of the sites, because I mean that's why we're here, regionalism, and to actually see our work in progress together. So perhaps I don't know, I think I remember the Coalition for Smarter Growth doing something like this maybe 10 years ago, a long time ago. But it'd be really great to get out and see these projects in different parts of the region.
Excellent suggestion. I would love to do that.
Karen Tonis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Chapman, thank you so much for all the work. I honestly, I would love to be a fly on the wall when the panel was discussing that, because I am absolutely sure that if you had the money, you would fund everything, right? So it is interesting. First of all, there is a big funding elephant in this room, which is Amazon, and we have to recognize that they put at least $500,000 in their mouth, and they continue to fund that. So one of the questions that I have is what happens next? What is there a round 5 of HAP, etc.? The second thing is, I do see where it goes. I mean, there is extremely policy-wise. These are small grants. They are targeted to reward and trigger a certain policy response. And I'm very excited and intrigued to see that on the one side you have practitioners, so those who actually build the buildings, and we help them to study how to overcome certain difficulties or obstacles, like how do I build the mixed use into this. But on the other side, we still do the thing that we have been always good in doing. Like I'm absolutely excited about the Purple Line, but very excited about the Manassas Park. This is truly where affordable housing has to go. This is close to the VRE station. That's very, very important. In Alexandria, we are supporting the effort of reimagining an inclusive residential zoning by giving a tool that it's not very common, like a pattern book, etc. So do we have kind of a philosophy of what we are going to be asking in jurisdictions? What kind of projects do we want to welcome if we take into account that now as a region we are really under pressure to deliver on our housing goals? Huge pressure, not only understanding of the problem, but actual popular pressure to deliver on this.
So those are both, it's a great question and a great observation. I would say in terms of a round 5 for HAP, I'm cautiously optimistic that Amazon will be willing to fund us again. That discussion is preliminary, and of course it would be unfair for me to suggest that if Amazon were to say no, that we would have an immediate plan B for funding this program. But hopefully that is something that we can do. We have explored finding other funding sources for this program in the past, unfortunately have not been particularly successful. But I think the broader the comment that you made too about the value of the program, how we can use it to support our housing goals, is a challenging one, and certainly one that the selection committee grappled with in terms of where's the greatest impact given the limited amount of funds. But hopefully we think that the terms of the amount of funding that we have available, that work for local government will really support efforts that expands the capacity of local staff for work that is important, has long-term impact, but might not be otherwise possible. Whereas the need for development funding is immense, and a $75,000 grant is very welcome and helpful, but a drop in the bucket in a multi-million-dollar total development cost budget. So stay tuned. Would welcome your input in terms of how we can continue to improve the program and support our members in achieving their housing goals.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just as a footnote to that, there is one thing that I think merits this kind of small grant support, which is innovation in something that's not very sexy, but is incredibly fundamental, which is housing financing. If I have if I had to correlate innovation factor to production of units, it's those who have produced the most have been the most innovative in finding clever ways to fund them. So to do the financing work. And I would, just encourage you to look for takers in this field as well.
Thank you.
My question is for general knowledge though. How this process went about? Like someone from the county, like Prince George County Housing Authority, put in for this grant to identify the property? How that process works? For my general knowledge, I was just curious.
Oh, sure. Well, we do our best to advertise the program when the application period opens. Our crack communications team over here tries to make sure we get the word out through our email channels, through social media. We advertise with partner organizations such as Housing And that publishes these housing funding opportunities. We try to cast as broad a net as possible. And then we have there's an app during the application period, there's an opportunity for applicants to submit an abstract, get feedback to strengthen their application during that period itself. But generally we rely on our traditional communication channels to get the word out, and through some of our partner organizations, ULI Washington as well, to share that.
One more follow-up question. Is money available right now? Can they apply today and get it?
And the funding that was available for last year is now fully obligated pending your action. But stay tuned. As I said, Board Member Karen Tonis, hopefully Amazon will agree to fund another round. And if so, I'll be happy to share that news with the board.
Any further questions or comments? If not, we'll need a motion, or I move to adopt Resolution R10 2026. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. The final agenda item for today is a briefing on the impacts of potential federal funding changes and the impacts of the continuums of care and unhoused populations in our region. Joining us today is Christine Hong, Montgomery County Chief of Homeless Services and COG Homeless Services Committee Chair, as well as Hillary Chapman, COG Housing Program Manager, and Sam Kenny, COG Regional Homeless Systems Coordinator. Ladies.
So just a quick moment while our chair gets settled here. Just wanted to mention that unfortunately my colleague Sam Kenny is not able to join us today, but for very happy reasons. He and his wife are welcoming a new baby, and they're all healthy and well, a little boy, and so he will be available in a few weeks.
It's very happy news. Yeah. Well, good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chairs and members of the board. My name is Christine Hong. I serve as Chief of Services to End and Prevent Homelessness in Montgomery County, and I'm speaking today on behalf of COG's Homeless Services Committee. As the current chair and as a longtime member of the committee, it's quite a privilege to represent the committee and all the continuums of care within that committee. So I'm very thankful to be here today. Today's presentation is about advocacy efforts to avoid a preventable disruption to existing federally funded homeless programs. Sorry, let me just get situated. And these programs provide critical support to thousands of our neighbors. The primary issue that we will discuss today is extending financial support to housing and services that are already operating. So they are currently serving people in those programs, and we need to discuss them so they can continue to operate without interruption while the administration works through changes to the federal homelessness funding and policy process. The Homeless Services Committee is bringing this forward because the region's homelessness response system relies on a network of continuum of care funded providers across our jurisdictions. When that funding is delayed or disrupted, it creates immediate operational risk for providers and immediate stability risk for people who depend on those housing and services. We'll go to the first slide. Today, we're asking the board to adopt a resolution urging HUD and Congress to take prompt, time-limited action to ensure continuity of existing continuum of care funded housing and services for the FY25 funding transition. The intent is straightforward: prevent gaps that would interrupt housing and services for people who are already housed, already engaged, or actively being served. This also protects system performance. Disruptions in services can ripple very quickly. Funding delays would affect staffing of all of these programs, landlord relationships, service delivery, and the region's ability to move people out of shelter and into housing, which is critically important while homelessness has been increasing. Federally funding, I'm sorry, let me move to the next slide. Next, I want to provide more details about the current status and challenges. COC renewal funding is typically awarded in a one-year increment, and communities plan around a predictable annual competition cadence. That predictability allows providers to plan staffing, maintain leases, and deliver housing and services without interruption. Even when HUD uses a 2-year NOFO structure for application purposes, communities still rely on timely renewals tied to fixed grant end dates. In late 2025, that predictability was disrupted. HUD issued an FY25 COC Notice of Funding Opportunity proposing significant changes, then withdrew it after legal challenges. A federal court later issued a preliminary injunction that blocks HUD from implementing the new conditions and directs HUD to proceed under the prior framework while litigation continues. As a result, uncertainty remains around federal timelines and how quickly renewals will be executed, creating heightened risk of funding gaps for grants expiring in early and mid 2026. Here's the key point for the board. The problem isn't whether federal funding is available for COCs. The problem is whether those dollars are obligated in time to match local grant terms that expire on fixed dates. Even a short delay creates a real risk of a funding gap. That gap matters because it would hit the same continuum of care network that delivers housing and services across our region and each of our communities. Those providers operate programs that are already serving thousands of residents. When renewals are delayed, providers can be forced into emergency decisions that reduce capacity, slow placements, and destabilize households, potentially leading to increases in homelessness. This is why the Homeless Services Committee is focused on continuity now. Ensuring continuity allows the region to maintain stability while the federal process plays out. And then the committee will seek engagement in a more structured regional conversation about longer-term implications, changes to the NOFO process and proposed policies. This slide is meant to make the scale of the risk clear. Regionally, Metropolitan Washington received approximately $77.4 million in continuum of care funding in FY24. This figure is not an estimate of what will be lost. It's a measure of scale and reliance. It reflects how much of the region's homelessness response system depends on federal COC-funded housing and services that are already operating and largely renewal-based. While we do not have yet a region-specific count of grants expiring in the first 6 months of 2026, it is reasonable to assume the region is facing significant risk in that period. National analysis estimates that roughly 1/3 of COC funding is associated with grants expiring between January and June 2026. And the Metropolitan Washington COCs reflect a similar renewal-based structure. Even a limited disruption could be significant because it affects leases, service delivery, and provider operations that are already in motion. COC-funded programs are paying rent for people who have been housed through those COCs, staffing for case management and supportive services, and maintaining relationships with landlords and partners. When renewal timing becomes uncertain, providers can be forced into short-term decisions that slow placements, pause move-ins, reduce service capacity, and create instability for people who are currently housed or actively being served. On this slide, I want to anchor our understanding of the number of individuals that interact with the homeless services system. On a single night in 2025, the regional point-in-time count identified 9,659 people experiencing homelessness across metropolitan Washington. This is the most consistent region-wide snapshot we have of the scale of need across our jurisdictions. It's important to remember what the point-in-time count is and is not. So it is a one-night count over the course of a year. Many more residents cycle through outreach, shelter, and rehousing programs across the region. So this count should be understood as a floor, not a ceiling. We also know that the current system is not perfect. We discussed that during the point-in-time presentation at the May board meeting. That is exactly why jurisdictions and providers across the region are engaged in ongoing work to strengthen system performance, improve coordination, and increase successful exits to housing. At the same time, the system serves residents every day and tens of thousands over the course of a year. It is a critical part of the regional safety net. Without stable funding renewals, is that tickle in your throat? Without stable funding renewals, it becomes much harder to sustain housing, maintain services, and make the improvements we know are needed. That is why the focus today is continuity. People impacted by a funding gap are currently supported by COC funds, and the harm to them will be very real. They include residents currently housed through COC-funded programs and residents actively trying to exit homelessness through that same provider network. And next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the context and what it means to Montgomery County, the COC in which I operate. And this slide brings the federal timing issue to the Montgomery County context. So for providers, the funding gap can mean contract expirations, delayed payments, and emergency financial decisions. It can mean staff reductions, service interruptions, and a slowdown in new move-ins because programs cannot responsibly take on new obligations without confidence in renewal timing. For a system, it means an overall decrease in availability of housing, which can lead to longer shelter stays and fewer available beds. This can lead to an increase in the length of stay at the shelters, which when there are no move-outs, then there are no beds available. There are fewer beds available. And so people will have to wait for a bed to open, and that can lead to an increase in unsheltered homelessness. An increase in unsheltered homelessness impacts our hospitals, our public health, our public safety system, as well as our businesses. Montgomery County's COC grants fund 12 permanent housing programs, and they provide housing to approximately 800 people. That includes people with disabilities, families, veterans, youth. And 3 of those programs expire in the first 3 months of 2026. One expired January 1st, and that program no longer had the ability to pay the rent of the individuals in which it had housed. Fortunately, a very, very generous faith community stepped up and paid for the entire rent for January using their Christmas collection. And Montgomery, it was an amazing gift to all of those residents. In addition, Montgomery County has identified some gap funding for those first 6 months. However, you can see that's just 3 programs. Another 6 programs will expire on July 1st, and another 3 later on in the calendar year. And with the nearly $11 million of funding needed to both pay for the staff as well as all the rent for the 800 people we serve, it will have a huge impact. And most of the that funding goes to pay rent. So 8.3 million is specifically for rent. So you can see that that funding would be a significant loss in revenue to landlords as well. And 1.7 million of that supports the staff at the different agencies who provide those programs. For permanent supportive housing participants who have documented disabilities, an interruption in funding can lead to a return to homelessness, a fear that a person has experienced homelessness always lives with. And so it risks re-traumatizing all the people that we've worked so hard to house. And all of our partners have worked so steadily over the years to make reductions in homelessness that is, for the people who live it, means everything. So let me move next to the action that we're requesting. This slide focuses on what we're asking. The requested action is for the board to adopt the resolution and authorize transmittal of letters to HUD and Congress. The purpose is to urge prompt, time-limited steps to prevent interruptions in existing housing and services during the 2025 funding transition. The ask is intentionally focused and narrow. It is not a comment on other policy changes in the NOFO. It is simply a request to protect what is already in place so that providers can operate continuously, households can remain stably housed, and local systems can avoid preventable disruption. If the board adopts the resolution, the letters will communicate a consistent message. Continuity does matter. Timing matters. The region needs interim measures and clear guidance that prevents a gap for grants expiring in early and mid 2026. This is a concrete step the board can take to support stability for residents and protect the integrity of the regional homelessness response system while federal process issues are resolved. Thank you for your time and for your consideration of this time-limited action to protect continuity of housing and services across the region. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Board members? Ms. Bailey?
Mr. Chairman, just a comment. Thank you so much for your presentation, and I'm glad you had water. The thing is, I was just saying to Kate that, you know, we're just talking about 2025. We're not even in 2026 yet. And so this is absolutely a tool nationally that's being used against legislation and making sure that people are provided for. So absolutely, we're in support of this. But I appreciate your bringing it to our attention in terms of, because I really did not understand as a board member where we are with this. But protecting the funds is critical. So just thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Snyder? No.
All right, sorry, I have laryngitis. I am not contagious either, and I promise it's not Montgomery County coming to infect you today. A couple of things. You're fine. Rich is fine. One, I just want to say congratulations to Christine for chairing this committee. We're glad to see that, and to Hillary and Sam for the incredible work you've done over the last couple of years. Being on this board, I know I've talked about really ramping up the work we're doing around the unhoused and housing insecurity. And over the last couple of years, you really have. And this is a testament to the fact that you are proactively bringing this to this board right now. So I just want to thank you for that work and agree that understanding the impact this is going to have is huge. I would just ask that I'm imagining we're going to pass the resolution today, that And I think this goes to Mr. Mercer and our great communication staff, that we push this out as far as we can so that people really understand the impact that we are going to see in our community. Because I think each and every one of us hear from constituents concerned about the unhoused population and not really understanding what has been cut and what is at risk. We hear from our businesses because this does impact them so much. And so I think making sure that we're getting this out there so people understand why we are seeing an increase of our unhoused and the trauma this is causing to our families and individuals who may become unhoused again, or more and more families who we may say see in hotels for longer stays. And so I just want to thank you for that and ask the COG staff that we really elevate this in our communications. Thank you.
So thank you very much. That's Stewart and this is Snyder, not to confuse the two. I would be honored to be confused with, with Stewart. So just a couple of quick points. First of all, I support this. We operate an emergency shelter and I work with my church in downtown DC on homeless issues. So I'm glad this is brought before us. My question though is a more general one to COG. We see that the Federal Emergency Management Agency programs are being slashed. We see veterans programs being slashed, transportation, environment, and on and on. So do we have a good inventory of the slashing that's being done and the impacts on local governments so that we can bring other resolutions like this in front of the board or develop a more comprehensive resolution that covers some of these other areas? So my question is, process for COG to be addressing other issues similar to this one. And again, I support this action.
It's a good question. A couple responses that may satisfy your question, but I think there's more to be done on this. One, I'll be in Atlanta next week with about 7 or 8 other large metro directors, and we all inventory some of the discretionary ongoing grants that COGs receive across the country and how they're affecting our organizations. And we have and Julie helps maintain kind of a running list of vulnerabilities that our COG has to federal exposure. I will say, compared to other councils of government, we're in a pretty good situation. There's other councils that are much more reliant on discretionary funding from one year to the next. That's just for COGs. That's not for the region writ large. And the May meeting we have identified, and this is give credit to Mayor Reed for suggesting this, was talking with the CEO of Goodwill last week. And the thought, this is very preliminary, is to bring together 3 to 5 of our largest nonprofit social service providers to have a discussion of what they are seeing and the kind of budget impacts that you're talking about. Preface the initial conversation with a level setting on some of the cuts and budgets, and then hearing from some of our providers who can also share at the same time work that they are doing across the region. Preliminary, that will be at Goodwill, which is in Noma, their headquarters. That's all coming together, but it's on our radar screen that we need to do a deeper dive. Yeah.
Does that include areas like the FEMA cuts, veterans cuts, immigration, attacks on immigration, you know, on and on and on?
We do what we can is the answer. I mean, Scott Boggs is pretty on top of some of the Homeland Security. Obviously, the Urban Area Security Initiative, UASI grants are a big deal. Help facilitate getting that money out. That's been something. But to say we're on top of every different funding decision that's being made at the federal level and its impact is just every week there's something new. We're doing our best, but it's a good reminder that particularly for some of these social service and safety net type issues, we could probably have a meeting dedicated to looking at what's being done in the region.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. A few years back, when I was chair of the Human Services, the Human Services Policy Committee, we advanced a resolution that the full board adopted, which was the Regional Compact on ending homelessness. I was curious if that had worked out at all. I mean, the goal there was to enhance data sharing, by name lists, et cetera, so that we could have more interjurisdictional cooperation, acknowledging that people move between the jurisdictions and that maybe in the future there'd be an opportunity for resource sharing, which is always hard to get governments to agree to, but COG can sometimes make that happen. And a piece of that also was that we had the partnership to end homelessness at the community foundation that was bringing in sort of the philanthropic world to try to fill some of these gaps and be a public-private partner. So just curious if that went anywhere or if it's something we can revisit now. If not, because we have that compact and it seems like a great opportunity to just nudge a little if that sort of information sharing can create some economies.
Thank you for that question, and thank you, Councilmember Nadeau, for your leadership in bringing that compact forward. Real quickly, I'm just gonna add from the COG perspective, and then Chair Hong can chime in here too. I would say that compact has been has made a significant impact on our regional work, and it has been meaningful direction setting and incredibly valuable to guiding the work of the committee. It has been like a North Star in terms of how we are working together. And I think it has been, I think actually it was in 2021 that it was adopted. So it's probably time for a refresh. But certainly through work of Montgomery County, District of Columbia, Prince George's County, the work on data sharing has advanced significantly since that time. And we're really looking to those three jurisdictions in particular to help guide the work of the rest of the region. The Virginia COCs are working with the state on their homeless data warehouse. So that's a separate project that we hope to connect in the future. Certainly, we have engaged in more coordinated entry coordination across the region as much as we can without a data sharing agreement for all the COCs engaged. The resource sharing, I will admit, continues to be a dream that we're working toward. And we don't necessarily have, concrete evidence of our ability to move that needle a little bit, but certainly it has been helpful. And we are happy to engage the board in the discussions about what the next couple of years might look like.
Thank you for that regional context. And I can share a bit about the work being done between the district, Prince George's County and Montgomery County as a result of that compact. So the three counties, it took some time for all of us to enter into a memorandum of understanding that was approved by all of our respective attorneys. And we did move forward with that. So that was a big step. And then as a result of that, we were able to sign on to all work with Green River, which is a consultant that provides a database for this specific type of data sharing. And we did all the work needed to start that database. So we call it the Metropolitan Washington Data Sharing Warehouse. And it has all the data between the three regions. And when we were so excited, and so we started pulling data from that. And I can tell you when we would pull data on the shared clients between the three COCs, we got hits of over 10,000, and we were quite overwhelmed with that. But that's to be expected given how transient the experience of homelessness is, and that people are connected in multiple ways to the region where they work, where they live, where they have family and friends. And so what we decided to do is focus our efforts more narrowly on the veteran population, because the VA has resources that go across our three COCs. So we currently have a working group that meets monthly to do case conferencing on the veterans that are served between the three COCs. And in Montgomery County, that collaboration is really important because we have a veteran safe havens where the VA will place folks experiencing homelessness who may not necessarily be residents of Montgomery County, but definitely need the safe haven shelter and services. And it allows us that meeting to continue to collaborate the housing plans of each of those individuals in safe haven. So from our perspective, we are making forward progress. That's just one subpopulation, though, and it's not the largest by far. So we're going to continue that. And we hope to expand that case conferencing to all of our subpopulations, so that we can see that, make that type of progress across the board, between the three regions, the three continuums of care.
Mayor Jordan.
Yeah, I just want to move that we go ahead and adopt resolution R 11/2026.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any further comments, questions?
One question, Mr. Chair. Of course, I'm supportive of that, and it shows us again what kind of a territory, political territory we are, because we're dealing with federal government that impounds funding that Congress has approved. So that's intentional. This is not a dysfunction. This is there is a purpose attached to that. The question is, what is our contingency strategy here? Because I don't believe that this is going to be the last time we'll have to deal with this. We're monitoring, we're catalogizing, but I believe that somebody not only at HUD, but probably the White House knows very well that this hurts a lot and they're maximizing the pain. My question to you is, what is our Congress strategy? Because what here is happening is basically the federal government being contempt of congressional appropriation. So who, how, and when we have to mobilize here?
Yeah, I think that our communications and advocacy with Congress are incredibly important, because even though the current lawsuit may nullify the NOFO, the 2025 NOFO, with the drastic cuts to our permanent housing funding, HUD may appeal that, even if the judge makes a final ruling that the 2-year NOFO, the 2024-2025 NOFO, is what stands. And so that may add additional uncertainty to the timing of the funding, and they're currently expiring. So the advocacy to Congress is very important, to ensure that, or to work to ensure that it's on their radar that this funding must continue, because even if the policies shift, we need time to be able to implement those changes. And so to extend the current grant funding by another 12 months, which was the intention of the 2024-2025 NOFO, is really what is needed to ensure that there isn't this great instability and risk to not only our COCs and jurisdictions, but across the country. So we need to tell them that protecting that 12 months of funding is critically important. And that allows us to prepare for changes in policy that are coming.
So we have a motion which has been properly seconded. Any further comments or discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion passes. Before we close out, this is an opportunity for any additional business that is burning at this time that is there.
Okay, it's not burning, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you to my board members for your condolences in the loss of my mother. I got a personal call from the executive director, my buddy, and I really appreciated your prayers. And thank you for just indulging me in my absence during that time. It was during the holidays. So thank you and congratulations to the new esteemed, august executive council and to the committees. Thank you.
That stated, meeting is properly adjourned. Good evening, everyone. The number one.
No.
Everyone is always right.
Yeah.
Great.
11 to go.
Right.